Welcome, 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 everybody. I am Coach Les, and I am here with Mr. Yarwood, and we are about to do session number 38 of Yarwood's Martial. 39.
39.
I just want to keep taking numbers away. I don't know.
Oh.
39 relationships. Our
Relationship.
Yes. My relationship to numbers is not great. That's why I have a good bookkeeper and a good accountant. Because I stay away. Relationships are foundational to both life and martial arts, deeply shaping both personal growth, discipline, and fulfillment. We're going to be talking about what are relationships in life, what are relationships in martial arts, and how is it that martial arts can make a difference outside of the studio. That's what we're up to in Yma Chat. Our goal is to provide a resource for people to be able to come and listen to these videos. We've got 39 of them now that all deal with specific topics: integrity, discipline, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And today we're going to, as we said, we're going to be talking about relationships, and I'm going to give it over to Mr. Yarwood to kick us off, and then I will jump in.
Yep. I think, we're talking about specifically, martial arts and kind of what we do, but relationships, I think, are a requirement for anything that you do. That's how we operate as humans, is to be relational with people. The way we get things done, the way we go through our day, the way we talk, the way we hang out, the way we play, the way we work, everything is directly related to relationships. I mean, you and I are in a BNI networking group, right? And the whole point of that is, sure, we're a bunch of businesses that want to get business from each other and help each other grow. But if we don't talk to each other, don't know each other, don't, help each other, don't have relationships with each other, then it's not going to work. Because if I depend on you to help me grow my business, but I don't ever talk to you, I don't know anything about you, I don't, interact with you, I just expect you to give me something, it ain't going to work, right? So relationships are vital to our existence, I think, because when it comes to martial arts, my goal as the head guy, the one in charge, is to know as much as I can about each one of my students and their families. It's a challenge because as I'm growing, I'm getting more and more students and more families in the door. But I try and interact with all of my students that are there every day, talk to the parents as much as I can, and just get to know them on not just, a superficial level because, I think I'm supposed to, but I really genuinely want to know how my student's day went. When I ask them, how'd your day go? I mean it. I want to know. I'm not just making small talk with them. Or when I talk to parents about, how they're doing, how is their kid doing at home? How's, they had, a soccer game, how their brother doing the soccer game yesterday, those types of things, right? I truly want to know because I care about them. I want to have a relationship with them. And I feel if I really want my school to grow, if I really want to be able to provide the value that I say I provide, I have to know the people I'm providing it to. And I have to know about them. I have to know things, be able to talk to them on more than just, I'm your student's instructor level, right?
Yeah.
I have, some of the parents in my school I'm friends with, right? Some of my students, like Coach Les here, I'm friends with. It's not just he's my student, I'm his instructor. We have a friendship, and that's really important in everything we do, right? So it's just relationships are nurtured and grown. They don't just happen automatically. You have to work at them and continue to work at them. Just like, we grow a garden. It's springtime, we're planting seeds, right? We plant a seed in the ground and then don't water it, don't take care of it. It's not going to do anything. It's just going to lay there. So unless you take care of it, it's not going to grow. It's not going to prosper. So to me, relationships are probably the foundation of everything that we do in order to make sure all the other stuff can be taken care of.
Yeah. It's, it's funny because I was just having this conversation. And by the way, everybody, I did not know we were going to be talking about relationships today. So what I am going to share with you is actual, it's real. It's not made up. And today I had a conversation with a friend about two of my best friends that I thought were best friends. And in fact, to give you an idea of the friendship level, I was the best man in both of their weddings. I would have called myself one of their best friends. And the relationship we had for me was completely open. It didn't come with any preconceived notions that I knew of. We were supportive. We come from different backgrounds. One of them's Jewish. One of them's very, very, very Lutheran. He's a deacon at one of the largest Lutheran churches in the country. He was in their choir. And I look at both of those relationships and, from my world, I was a support system. I mean, I supported them when they got married, being a best man, right? So, and then politics suddenly happened. And COVID happened. And between those two, their view was different than my view. And they chose to throw away the relationship based on my view not being the same as theirs. And I look at that and, we were talking about it today and I was like, how do you, I mean, I get it because that's how wars are started, right? You look at, hey, you're my brother across the street over there. Oh, but now you want my land. Why? Just because you suddenly want it. So you're going to go to war with me to get my land. And yet we were just sitting having a barbecue the other day, a feast and a fan. I mean, it's like, what shifted that all of a sudden now I'm your enemy and you're going to go to war over a piece of land? Well, welcome to relationships. They are not easy. They are difficult. They require work. And they also require, for me, an ability to be flexible, for me, I loved the fact that they had some different views than me. I cherished that because I could get somebody I know, loved, and trusted. I could get their opinion on that viewpoint. And I knew that the core at that time, I knew the core and foundation of where they were coming from was like-minded, and they could give me an opinion and I could go, I see, I get it. And the way they grew up and the way I grew up, very different. And yet I could appreciate who they were and their opinions and everything for how they grew up, how they learned, how they were disciplined, all of that. They chose not to have that same point of view. And I think more and more today, this is so important to have that grace, to have that compassion, to have that ability to be okay with somebody. And yet social media, schools, bullies, all of this stuff forces us to choose sides because they want us polarized. Well, you know what? I'm done being polarized. You want to polarize yourself against me, you go right ahead. Yep. I'm gonna love you unconditionally anyway. And that, to me, that's what I see inside of the martial arts world. Of course, we're all different. We're all at different levels of training. Does that mean that, well, my ego can't handle talking to a black belt because I'm not a black belt? That's ridiculous. There's the funny thing about all of that is there's always going to be somebody better than you. Always. I don't care who you are. There's
Yep.
always, you could always find somebody better than you. So why not enjoy those around you?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, when I look at the students of my school, right, or the parents, I don't. It's not that I don't ban it. I can't say I ban it, but it's our discussions within the walls of the dojo. If you were to have a conversation with me, there's no way, unless you directly ask me, for you to know what my politics are. I don't ever talk about politics. I don't talk about stuff. I talk about the things I believe in. We talk about discipline and integrity and all those things that I think are important and vital in everyday life. But I don't judge people based on those things, right? I don't automatically assume something of somebody. I am who I am, and and you are who you are, and that's how we get along. And I've had I have friends who, at some point we found out that we were politically opposite, right? And thankfully, we had already had so many discussions about things that when we did find out about that, it didn't change anything. As a matter of fact, it kind of enhanced the relationship because now the discussions get a little bit more deep because now we're trying to learn more about each other, why we feel the way we do about certain topics, why we think the way we do, and we can have that open discussion. And sometimes we can change hearts and minds just by having those discussions. But if you immediately jump to a conclusion about somebody based on a way that they feel, a way that they think, then you're missing out because you immediately, if that's the way you feel about somebody, you immediately cut off 50% of the population, right? If you're thinking about running a business and you isolate 50% of your students, of your population, you're not going to get very far. So if that's the way you think about things, that I don't always agree with things, that's obvious, right? But I don't put people down based on what they think, what they feel, because that is who they are, right? I might not think that, they're thinking things through once in a while, just like they probably think the same way about me, but that's a disagreement, right? That's not a relationship ender. And those people who that's their way of going through things, honestly, I don't think they're not going to be happy in life. They're not going to get through. They're not going to be successful because they're not able to have real relationships. Their relationships are based on agreeing with somebody else, right? And if that's what you base your relationship on, you're going to struggle because when you surround yourself with like-minded people, you get very funneled, and it's very tough to expand your thought processes, expand your friendship groups, expand you know, your relationships, your social, all that stuff. You get stuck in these bunkers of thought. It's like, this is the only way, and if you don't think this way, you're out, right? And it just doesn't work, right? And it's very challenging when you come across somebody who's like that to just write them off, right? They don't agree with me. They hate me. I don't want anything to do with them. Screw it. Well, that doesn't make things any, right? So, my 2 cents, I guess.
And I look at it as, how are we going to grow? And if there are some valid points that I've missed in my upbringing, for me to hear those from somebody that I've developed trust with is a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I can go, oh, like you said, this is how they came to that point of view from this growth and development from this place.
Yep.
And you know what? I may not change my point of view to match theirs, and I could transform a little of it. So I could add that to my bucket, which makes me a deeper, rounder individual.
Yep.
On here, I'm going to read the three things that came up for in life. One is, because we've talked about all three of them now, support system. Healthy relationships provide emotional, mental, and sometimes financial support. They help us endure hardships and celebrate victories. Number two, identity and growth. Through connections with others, we learn about ourselves, our values, communication style, and capacity for empathy.
Mm-hmm. That's a big one.
It really is. That capacity for empathy allows me to go, my gosh, this person, although, and here's a point that I'm going to, is a very political point that I'm going to bring up, but I think I think it provides a very good example. Something happens, and through rape or something, and a lady gets pregnant. Given wherever she's at, she chooses to have the baby out of wedlock, give it up for adoption. That's her choice. Now, it's her body, it's her relationship with her faith, however it is. If she chooses to have an abortion, that's her body, that's her relationship, that's her commitment to whatever that gives her, in my mind, gives her the right to choose. Now, if I have a point of view that's different than that, that doesn't mean hers is wrong. Doesn't mean she can't have her point of view. What it does mean for me is, who am I to be mad, hate her, do violence against her because she's choosing what she's choosing that works for her? And to me, I look at all the political rallies, I look at all of the wars. Every war has been based on religion and politics. Every single war. And
Yep.
people come to me and say, so Les, are you religious? And I will literally say, the way you're thinking about it right now, I am not. Do I follow the teachings and the path of Christ because I see the value? Yes, I am. Do you want to call me a Christian and put me into that box? Please don't, because there's people in that box that really, I don't agree with them being in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't epitomize the values of Christ. Now, does that make them bad people or wrong people? No, it makes them people that have chosen the way they've chosen.
Yep.
Which isn't my choice. Well, guess what? I could be okay with that. I don't feel offended. I don't feel hurt. I don't feel plowed over. I don't feel encroached upon. It's okay. They can have their point of view.
Yep. And the whole thing is, too, if you think about it, do you want them telling you how you're supposed to think, act, feel, right? If you don't like that from them, then you can't be that way towards them. And we can both have our viewpoint and still not force it on each other. That's just how it is. We're all individual, independent thinking beings, and we all have the way we grew up, the way we learned how to do religion, how to do politics, how to do money, do all these things. We all learn them independently of each other. So none of us is exactly like the other one. So when you try and fit somebody into a box or into whatever, it's impossible to do, because not everybody and everything and every person thinks like I do. And that's good. I don't want that. That'd be kind of scary if everybody thought that way.
One of me is enough. Believe you me.
Exactly. That's
It's
what I've
enough.
heard from other people too. Like, glad, Mr. Yard, there's only one of you. But it's, that's what makes it so important that you have good relationships with people, is because we all have certain things that are different, and we can learn those things from each other. We, like you said, either choose to include it in our philosophy, or find it's not something that fits our philosophy and put it aside. But that doesn't make that person right or wrong. It just makes them different from us, right? And whether we agree or disagree, that's fine. I don't need to fight you. I don't need to scream and holler at you. I don't need to call you names. I don't need to shun you. I just need to understand that you and I don't think the same, and that's perfectly okay.
Yep. And, here we have somebody that's watching us on Facebook, and they just wrote this. Her name is Darlene Eaton, a friend of mine. And she's in response to this conversation, which is very sensitive, about abortion, and she starts out with, but if she's young and doesn't know better or know she has a voice, right? So to me, somebody else is telling her what she has to do, imposing their view on her, i.e. a parent or, somebody. She'll live with that forever. Of course, it's a big choice, a very big choice. She had two, and she goes, and Darlene says, don't judge me. And I look at that and go, there's only one judge. That's the guy upstairs. And he's and guy, gal, whatever you want to call it. That's the supreme being, whatever you want to call it. I am in no place to judge Darlene. If you ask me my point of view is very simple. She chose, based on everything she was dealing with in that moment, for whatever happened. And it happened. I'm going to support whatever way she wants me to support her. She wished it had never happened, and she's got 4 kids now. She regrets it. I would support her and say, look, you don't need to regret it. Regret does nothing except hold you back. And like she said, the first was in her parents' hands at 15. And then it was probably easy to follow that same path with those same conversations. Now, here's the thing. Her parents chose to impose their judgment, their right as a parent in that moment. I can guarantee you they also deal with an internal conversation about what happened. Was it the right thing to do? Did they regret it? What if Darlene had never been able to have children after that? Right? We have no idea. And there are so many intangibles. To me, the government or another person doesn't get to say. They have an opinion. And this is what I love about martial arts, right? It's like you can have an opinion. And, I'm going to use something that just happened with us the other day. In my training, I was doing something, I was making a move, and it hurt. It hurt my knee, hurt my hip in the moment. And Mr. Yarwood said, look, this is the way it's done, and here's why. And I chose to learn to do it. Now, it hurt even more at the beginning because I've been doing it the other way and my body's adapted. Now, guess what? I've got to now learn to adapt the other way. And once I get there, guess what? It may not hurt. And that's me trusting the relationship I've built with Mr. Yarwood to know that, guess what? He's probably got some experience with this, knows what creates pain and what doesn't, so I can choose either to go with pain or not. And he doesn't force me. He doesn't say you're never going to go anywhere if you don't do this. It's a choice. It's a choice, moment by moment by moment.
Yep.
If we could carry that everywhere, and then when somebody made a choice, the really cool thing about that is in that moment of choice, I have all my past that I'm choosing through. Mr. Yarwood has all his past that he's coaching through and educating through. I can choose to accept that wisdom or not. The results are going to be the results. And who knows? I could be the one in a billion that produces a different result, doing it the opposite way that Mr. Yarwood says. You know what? That is a possibility. There is a one in a billion. I don't want to be that gambler.
And you making that decision one way or the other doesn't affect how I feel about you, what my relationship is with you, right? I'm giving you some educated advice, and it's up to you to make a decision whether you're going to take it or not. I'm not going to have hurt feelings if you don't. I mean, that's your choice. I mean, if you choose wrong, you have to live with it. You know, I'm telling you the right way. But I'm saying,
well, and I would even say it's not. It doesn't even have to be right or wrong way. It's the way that has produced the best result with the least negativity.
Yep.
Proven over thousands of years.
Yep.
So guess what? Pretty simple.
Yeah, I think that's why one big reason that relationships are so important, because when you have a relationship with somebody and they give you some advice or they tell you about something, it has a lot of value to it because you trust that person. You've had a relationship with them. They're not going to steer you wrong. They're not going to try and hurt you. They're not doing it for nefarious reasons. More often than not, obviously there are people out there who are that way, but 99 times out of 100, they're not. Their intent is to help you. And when you have that relationship with somebody, it's more likely that that people are open to listening and to saying, yeah, you know what, that's a good idea. I think I'll try it. Right. Whereas if you don't have a relationship with somebody, or you have a bad relationship with somebody, that goes nowhere. It's a dead end. Right. If you and I are at odds with each other, and I'm trying to help you with something, and all you do is get mad at me and bark at me and say, don't tell me what to do. All right. That ain't going to work. It just,
And and it's funny as you're saying that, I'm reading what Darlene wrote in the chat on Facebook, and she said, at 15, you don't say no to mom or dad, right? She comes from that generation. You do not say no to mom and dad. Now, there was an impact of her listening to mom's advice, going and getting that first abortion. Mom had to take her to a shrink back then, right? Because it messed her up, because it was a mom forced choice. Once again, I'm going to go back to, this is why trying to force your view on somebody exponentially can cause a war. Mm-hmm. Oh, is that how it happens?
Huge ripple effect.
And then there's what they call the generational curse, that it takes something significant to transform that so that it doesn't get generated and passed on to the next generation by Darlene doing the same thing her parents did. Right? And that is part of that becoming self-aware. What's great about that in relationships? The one thing that one of the most powerful is relationship to self. What is that? So in martial arts, the 4 things that we have here, just to make sure that we cover them, because I think they're important. There's the instructor, and we've talked about a lot of these already. I'm just going to give the kind of the formal statement. Number 1, instructor-student bond. This relationship is central. A good instructor guides with authority and care, shaping both skill and character. Now, by the way, this is what parents ought to be doing. The difficulty in today's society, our society is pushing parents to let the government take care, pushing the responsibility onto others, which is the worst possible thing. And they say, well, I have to work 2 jobs and I don't have time. We all have time. We all have the time that we have. And in that time that we have, we can be very mindful and have conversations that are meaningful, not judgmental, not right or wrong based, but create a thinking, living, breathing human being, not by force and manipulation and cajoling. Training, almost like this next one in martial arts, a training partner. Trust is key. Partners help each other grow, stay safe, and push boundaries. They are rivals and allies at once. See, if parents practice this effectively right here, they would see, wow, yeah, I'm lucky. As a parent, there was a born trust there. They were born into it, trusting because I fed them and I clothed them. Now you have to continue to earn that trust as they grow. And some parents go, well, I have a right to just expect it. No, nobody has a right to just expect trust. It's built and maintained day to day to day to day. The dojo school community. A strong community reinforces discipline, accountability, and camaraderie, creating an environment where everyone thrives. I don't care what religious book you read, this right here is a paramount statement. It really is.
That's built into our mission and our vision statement as well. It's what we're all about.
It is the human condition leveled up. Number 4, lineage and tradition. What was I just speaking about? Martial arts honors those who came before. Respecting the master-student lineage connects practitioners to a greater legacy. Why? Because they've already gone through it. Learn. Then you can go from here to here faster. You have then an opportunity to exceed.
Yep. We just had a black belt testing, and at the end of that testing, we have a ceremony which involves lighting of candles and passing of the flame. The flame itself represents the wisdom and knowledge of the instructor. I was passed the flame from my instructor. She was passed the flame from her instructor. That's just how it works. So I'm just playing my part in that transition from instructor to student, and then my students are going to pass that knowledge and wisdom to the next generation. So when you have that relationship to your heritage, to your past, you can learn from it and share it with others, and that's how it gets brought forward. Otherwise, you blow that flame out and it's gone, and you don't get it back. So that's to us, it's a huge part of our tradition, is passing the flame of wisdom from one to the next, to honor what came before us, and to
Sorry about that. Thought I had it on mute, but I guess not. It came as a Facebook chat. My phone is on mute, but I guess Facebook isn't. Oh my gosh. And Darlene's laughing. Thanks. And, for me, the humility of somebody that is leading. So some of the primary, I lead a course on leadership on Mondays and Fridays. And one of the things that I know, whether you believe who Jesus Christ is, that's not my conversation here. Jesus Christ was a great leader. That's my conversation here. The way he led, the way he spoke to each and every person, from the bottom of the barrel to the king of the barrel. The way he communicated and the way he brought people together are the paramount qualities of a leader. And this lineage and tradition, martial arts honors those who came before, the leaders that got and created the path, whichever martial art is in, that you choose to follow. And you'll say, well, Coach Les, there are all these, they keep splintering off, and this person goes left and this person goes right. Which is the one I should follow? Follow the one who resonates with your layer of trust. Follow the one who embodies the characteristics you have chosen to have integrity with. There's no right or wrong answer. There's creating, and then once you've created it, and I'll just throw this in kind of as my closing piece. When I was going through my training as a coach, and I had a very powerful coach at that time, there was a piece of training that happened where I caught him in a mistake. And I was adamant that he own his mistake because I caught it. And I turned into a jerk about it. And finally, he looked at me, and it was one of the most valuable lessons I think I've ever learned. And he said, okay, you're right, and I'm wrong. Now what? I'm coaching you. You've just proved me, your coach, wrong, and that you're right. Now what? You just, quote unquote, killed your coach. Now what? And I looked at that, and for the first time, I saw something newly. And that was, you can be so right that you kill the other person. Not with a weapon or anything. You just kill them off. You kill off the relationship. And was it worth it? He goes, Les, I made a mistake. I get it. I apologize. Now what? And I suddenly realized in that moment that I had to make him the coach that was going to have me win. And the way to do that was to have him win, not be trying to have him lose.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was probably one of the most transformational things, because it happens today. For those of you that are married, you'll know this instantly, especially guys that are listening to this. you can be right about something and your wife be wrong about something, and you can be so right about it that your relationship blows up. Is it worth being that right, or could you have grace?
Yep, that's, you think about 99 times out of 100, that person, your coach or whatever, is right. You never focus on those. You only focus on the one wrong thing, right? So much so that it blows up your relationship. But none of the right things were good enough, right? But one wrong thing. Oh, here we go.
And that's what happens to many relationships, marriages, divorce. I know, I've been there. I was so right in my first marriage. I had a black and white piece of paper laminated with my 86 points on it and her 26 points laminated to the other side about me. And I was all mine still. And half of hers had changed within 6 months of the marriage. And I got little Mr. Righteous, sat on my little tufty stool and said, "You're wrong. I want out. You cheated. You did. And fast forward, I'll spare you all the details. Fast forward a few years later, I went and apologized. I said I was not being 100% responsible for the relationship. And people go, well, you don't have to be. It's 50-50. It's 100-100.
Mm-hmm.
And when I realized that, something new shifted. And if she hadn't been, because it was a couple of years, if she hadn't been engaged to be married at that point, again, we would have gotten back together. And she was clear about it. And she was very open and honest about it. She goes, Les, I just didn't know how you got so right about your point of me not being this person anymore. You couldn't see anything other than me being wrong. And I didn't know how to interrupt that. And then I got mad at you and jumped up on the same bandwagon on the other side of the river. And so in both life and martial arts, relationships cultivate respect, humility, trust, and perseverance. These are core traits that lead to mastery of self and connection with others. If you are someone that is looking to understand this, get into a martial art. Definitely. I'm not here to tell you which one. Somebody might like Tai Chi because it's flowing in energy. Others might like kickboxing because it's a lot of kicking and punching. Others might love Taekwondo. Others might like Kung Fu. There's hundreds. The core principles are the core principles. Get off your butt, get involved, and figure it out and see the difference it'll make. Over to you, Mr. Yarwood.
Yeah, cultivate your relationships. Make sure that they're strong. Water them. Tend to them. Give to them. Give of them. And grow them, because without them, you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to be miserable.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Yarwood. Great topic today. Thank you. And Darlene, thank you for all the comments. Really do appreciate the interaction. And with that, I'm going to do a little quick outro for us. And we'll be back
See you
here
on the mats.
See you on the mats.